Hello everybody and welcome to the multifunctioning reverse shell section. Now what we are going to do in this section is basically coding our own reverse shell, which will be based on the TCP server and TCP client. So we will actually code two programs. One of them will be our server, where we will listen for the incoming connection, and the other one will be the reverse shell or the payload, or however you want to call it, which we will deliver to the target in order to hope that they will actually run the program and connect their PC back to us, which will then allow us to execute multiple functions that we will also code, such as screenshotting target's PC, running keyloggers, getting administrator privileges, opening files, downloading files, uploading files, downloading other scripts from the internet, and so on and so on. So it will all be based on this part right here, which is the code that we need to make in order to be able to connect one PC to another. Now, those of you who are coming from my ethical hacking course have already some idea what we are going to code. It will most likely be all the same. We will change some of the different things at the end, such as actually making our reverse shell to be a song, for example, an MP3 file, which will run a song in the background, or an image, or the PDF file. We will also see how we can add multiple different icons to our file. And those of you that are coming from the ethical hacking course know that we didn't really code the reverse shell to be able to, or not the reverse shell, the server to be able to accept multiple connections. So that is something that we will do in this course. So we will code the reverse shell, or pardon me, the server, to be able to accept the connections from different PCs at the same time, so you can actually connect multiple targets in order to execute commands on all of them. We will be able to switch from the first session, for example, to the second session, and so on. It will be something similar to the interpreter shell and the exploit multi-handler. We will just try to copy all of that, as well as some of the functions, and then we will see how it will all go. That is the base of the actual command and control center, which will be able to create the botnet for your own needs. Now, most likely botnets are always used for DDoS attacks, which you really shouldn't do without permission, but you will be able to create something like that. Nothing really too advanced, since this is also a course for beginners, but I assure you it will have some of the different things and some of the more advanced things that the reverse shell should have. So let us see what we need to code in order to get this to work. This will be the basic principle behind all of this, which will contain the server and the client. The client in our case is our reverse shell, and the server is a program that we're going to run on our Kali Linux machine. So as we can see, we will need to create the socket object, which we did before, so nothing really new for us. We know what socket object is. We used socket library before, so all we have to do is create the socket object and bind certain IP address from our Kali Linux machine to the port that we want to listen on. In our case, we can use any port we like. We can use port, for example, 54321 if you want to. You will basically use any port you want, which is not in use on your system. What we need to do afterwards is listen for the incoming connections, and then after we listen for the incoming connections, the target can actually connect back to us. What the target will run is, in the target code, we will also make the socket object, and then we will perform the connect function from the socket library in order to connect to the IP address and the port that we specify in the server code to listen on. Then our server code will, as it says right here, establish connection with the three-way handshake over TCP, and it will accept the connection, and then we will be able to send the data or messages or commands, or however you want to call it, back and forth between our PC and the target PC. So afterwards, with the receive and send function, what we are going to do is send different commands, such as, for example, ls or dir, in order to print the files in the working directory, change directory, upload files, download files, and so on and so on. And at the end, when we don't really want to connect back to that target, we can just press a certain command, such as exit, or just type exit or something like that, which we will code in our program to be equal to actually closing the socket or closing the connection, and that will terminate our session with the target PC. So all of this we will be actually coding, so this will be a longer section, so prepare everything you need. This is one of the more useful things you will actually need, since this is the actual Python program that we will convert to the exe, and it will be able to run on any Windows PC. So you can make any Windows PC your target as soon as you find a method to deliver this to the target. And we will see also the method as well. We will see how we can send fake emails, how you can also deliver this if you want to over USB drive. So if you're physically close to the target, you can just take your reverse shell exe file and then plug it into the target PC and run it when nobody's watching. Now the actual bypassing of antiviruses will be, this program will actually be able to bypass most of the antiviruses, but not all of them. We will try to make sure to add some functions that will do literally nothing, just to be able to bypass some of the antiviruses. Such, for example, if you add a function that just does normal things such as adding numbers, extracting numbers, and so on, it might trick some antiviruses into thinking that this actually isn't any virus at all. So we will be taking a look at all of that in the next video. What we will also need to install, which we will start actually with, is the Wine installation. Now the Wine installation allows us to actually be able to convert the Python file on our Kali Linux machine into the exe file, which will allow us to run that code in the Windows PC environment without the Python interpreter. So that is something really useful. We will use the PyInstaller library from it, and we will compile it into one single file. And the reason why we will not be able to bypass all of the antiviruses is basically because of the PyInstaller, since PyInstaller library for Python by default gets actually detected by some antiviruses as an actual virus. So even if you coded a simple program which just prints hello world and converted it to exe with PyInstaller, it will still trigger some of the antiviruses out there. So that is something that we cannot really change, but we will be doing the most we can in order to bypass most of them. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope I see you in the next one, where we will start installing our Wine installer and we will start coding our program. So hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I see you in the next tutorial. Bye!